So today, it's really our intention to provide some insight of what we're seeing today in healthcare in that space and some of the ways to really improve your not only your security posture, but much better ways to improve endpoint management. So if we look at who Stratodesk is, so bottom line, Stratodesk helps healthcare organization really reduce their IT costs. And we do this by reducing the carbon footprint that's out there, by extending the useful life of existing PCs, our laptops, and devices. So by using Stratodesk, customers now can securely connect right out of the box to a VDI or DAS cloud workspace or even an application. And also moving to Stratodesk really helps to increase productivity, right? It supports a hybrid workforce, and then it strengthens the security and control through our cloud-based endpoint management. So we have enjoyed 15 years in business. We have 2 million plus customers or licenses under management. I wish we had 2 million customers. We have 6,000 customers and growing. One of the things I wanted to highlight is our customer support centers. We have two, one in the US and one in Europe, and that helps us really to support all of our customers from a worldwide perspective. Now, if we look at some of the trends that are going on in healthcare, as we all know, we went through a very troubling time during COVID. This period of time really directed all of IT budgets from IT to patient care for obvious reasons, right? The medical community that we're seeing is pushing for clinicians to be more efficient and to do a lot more. So if doctors and nurses are seeing more patients daily, this adds up to real numbers on an annual basis. If you look at telehealth and triage and working from home, if you can remember, all of the drive-in testing centers, the building and breaking down of patient centers. So people are working from home, they're using their personal devices. Users need to be able to work from home in a secure environment. And then there's a lot of pressure from cyber threats in healthcare. And here are some of the rising concerns that we've seen. So ransomware hit a high in 2021 where 66% of healthcare organizations were being affected. And then you have endpoints that are still running on unsupported operating systems. And the attacks are due to an OS that is vulnerable. So what does our solution look like? So our solution is called No Touch. It's a platform which consists of two components. The first part is called No Touch OS, so No Touch operating system, which is a hyper secure, where we are hardware agnostic, and we're a Linux operating system. And we built this from the ground up. So we can connect to any VDI or DAS or cloud workspace right out of the box. The second part of our solution is the No Touch Center, and this is where the endpoints are managed. So customers now can quickly deploy and control their devices running the No Touch OS. So here are some of our customers that have enjoyed working with Stratodesk. One in particular I want to highlight is South County Health. So they had a challenge. They had very strict budgets and a high PC replacement. So they were looking for a solution that was feature rich, and it had high security, and it obviously was affordable, and a repurposing endpoint management solution that works right out of the box with Horizon View. So after testing with our free trial, South County made the decision to move forward with No Touch and had some pretty great results. So it reduced the IT budget by 40%. This was by using their existing hardware. And then the time to deploy new hardware was reduced by 75%. So this saved 20 to 30 working hours per week. And I want to also highlight the graph on the right-hand side in terms of the estimated savings per device. If you look at the blue area, 39% saved up to $500 per device. And then in the yellow, $500 to $1,000 per device. So those are real numbers there. So Bill, I think you're going to take this from here.
You got it, Steve. Thank you. Good stuff too. Thanks for the story on your success there. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining. What I was planning on doing was continuing on with what Steve just spoke about and kind of going through some of the cost savings. Where do they come from? How do I get these cost savings that you're talking about? Because really it's you know, in my mind, this is one of the few ways that you can reduce cost yet increase security. So let's kind of go on on the first on the sorry, Steve, go back if you don't mind.
Yep, sorry.
Yeah, the chart on the left there, continuing on estimated savings per device. So how do we get this? Steve has some good numbers there. This is from our customer data. Our marketing department actually went back to some of our customers and asked them, and this is the information that we got back. So how do we get there? So here's some of the ways, right? So one of the ways is by repurposing, like Steve talked about, but you can also get our systems new, directly shipped from a manufacturer. And in that case, the size or the cost of them can be considerably lower. Uh, the amount of memory, the amount of disk space, you don't even need a hard drive. But even if you do, the images are about 3 gig compared to, status quo, we're talking, 150 or so. So the resources can be much smaller. That's one way that we're going to save money, as well as the repurposing, right? The other thing is the management's included. You don't have to go out and purchase some type of endpoint management solution. A lot of times we have multiple vendors in one facility or one healthcare organization, and you may have multiple ways of managing endpoints and or thin clients. In this case, the one included management suite can manage all of those, regardless of the architecture, regardless of the vendor. And that's a SaaS option too. So another way of reducing costs would be by getting the SaaS-based management option where the console is hosted and maintained by Stratodesk. We also have a licensing mechanism that helps you save also. We have a pay what you use model. You can use both CapEx and OpEx, but one of the real interesting ones is the pay for what you use model. Steve can help you out more with that. The other thing, one more on licensing, is all these licenses are transferable. So you can take, not like the status quo where each device has its own license tied to it. These devices can move. A lot of times, customers don't require antivirus. It's a read-only operating system. There's no local data. So a lot of people come and question, hey, do I really need antivirus or malware protection on this device? The other thing that you can do is, being that we have local browsers and local unified communications, I can potentially, reduce consumption costs of any cloud PC or, cloud hosted workload that's being delivered maybe by a Citrix, a VMware, or Microsoft, or AWS. But also by having that local and secured and read-only browser and unified communications, I may be able to reduce or offload some of my VDI or DAS or cloud PC usage as well. So a lot of different ways that we can get savings. You take a look at the graph on the right, then an expected hardware life cycle. Okay, so what is this about, right? So in a lot of cases, we can take PCs, laptops, thin clients, or other devices that may have reached their end of life as it comes to A, hardware, or B, software. So let's go over a couple of them. So the first thing is I have more on this later. I think it's on the next slide actually, but we have a Windows 10 and Windows 11. We have unsupported thin client software. All of these are coming up, right? We have hardware limitations. We have some unsupported software, and a really good way of extending the life of those is by repurposing or converting with our solution. We have automated conversion, so we can make that simple. I'm going to show you some of it. And the other thing I'm going to show you, and just to give you an example of some cost savings, in my lab, I have this old Dell E6400 laptop. It's actually about 15 years old now, but it runs great. I repurposed it. And if you think about that 15-year-old, this one meets both it outdated hardware and software. It's 15 years old. And so if you think about it, if a typical refresh is done every 3 to 5 years, I have a significant number of refreshes that this hardware is still actually good. All I needed to do was repurpose it with a supported and functional and updated software, and the device works great. And I'll show you that as we move on too. So next slide then, Steve, if you don't mind. The next thing then is, we also have the increasing cost of systems. We had logistics issues back, in the beginning of the pandemic, and, you know, with what happened yesterday, I believe it was in Baltimore, they're talking about, potentially additional logistic issues. So, one of the easy ways to do or take care of any type of issues like that is to repurpose. And Gartner has a couple numbers that I wanted to point out also. The first one is 80% of your total costs are after the initial purchase, I'm sorry, and that's the day-to-day management. I'm going to show you some techniques and such and some automations that we have to really highlight that number. And then I don't know how many of these are left out there, but an unmanaged PC costs $5,000 per year. And obviously this is a good solution for that as well. So the whole idea here is you can extend the lifespan of your existing investment. And that's thin clients, PCs, laptops, and other. Go ahead, Steve. So here we have the chart showing some things that are coming up real quick. Windows 10 end of life, October 2025. If you notice, that is not long. We have to start planning. We have to take an inventory which of our devices could potentially run Windows 11 and which ones do we have to do something with. Rather than refreshing that hardware, it may make sense to take a look at repurposing. Windows 11 requirements. Not all those Windows 10 devices are going to meet the Windows 11 requirements. In fact, I saw a second half 2024 due in September, and rumor has it that it's going to be a 16 gig requirement, which again is going to then take a lot of these systems that are very functional. And if you continue down that path, they're going to become obsolete, and you're going to spend a lot of money replacing, a lot of headaches, and lost productivity as you're replacing that. So again, one of the things, if you do need to run Windows, I'm a big proponent of running Windows 11 and Windows 10 and such in the cloud, and then having more of a secure enterprise, more of a zero trust type of a operating system than status quo as well. So let's go and take a look. Whoops. If you don't mind, Steve, then can you go on to the next slide? So now let's go and take a look at how Stratodesk helps out some of these challenges that healthcare was having. And Steve talked about the budget crunch, how the budgets had to get shifted direct patient care. And so one of the things that healthcare organizations can do to try to help out or recoup would be to have more operational efficiency. And really what that means is being able to see more patients in a day. And if I can get a couple additional patients in a day and then take that out to a year's time frame, healthcare systems look at that as real numbers, right? So you kind of take a look at it then. So what do we do here? So, one of the things is we have a real quick boot time on our device. We can have workflows. We have these secure workflows. That give the clinician the exact um, workflow that they need. Nothing more, nothing less. So there's no social media applications, there's no games, there's no trial software, there's no malware, there's no news. This is a work device that takes you right to these hardened workflows. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to show you this, we're going to set up some hardened workflows in the in No Touch Center in our management console. And then when we convert these devices or bring in new devices, they're going to pick those up. And again, um, all that user is going to be able to do is these four things. There's four icons or, whatever number of icons that you have. The other thing that we do is typically with like an Improvada, possibly a device auth, we have the ability to provide single sign-on and the ability to switch very quickly between clinical users. So if you think about that nursing station that's shared amongst different nurses, and sometimes the physician has to go there as well, it's very important to be able to switch between those users with their login credentials in a very fast amount of time. And that's how we're going to be able to get to see more users. And we have that capability to go very quickly between those sessions. All the management is central, so no one's going to come and bug any type of clinician to get away from the system so that we can maintain it. I'm going to show you some help desk automations that just make help desk that much more seamless. It's also a great device for plug and play, and that could be used from a disaster recovery perspective. It could be used from a high availability perspective. The other thing is we have the ability to connect to all the leading VDI, DaaS, and cloud PC platforms. Citrix, VMware, AWS, Microsoft, Parallels, and the list goes on. And we also have local collaboration and communications. We have local browser capabilities as well. So for customers that may be migrating to a Epic hosted or a direct browser type of EMR, it's very simple to use our system for that transition. You can make it nice and transparent. It's secure. And then, again, you take a look on the average, the IT teams using our system have reported back that they're saving 14 hours a week just from some of these efficiencies. The other thing, one more thing though, mention, we also have a boot from USB stick, which is makes things pretty efficient as well as a dual boot scenario for our home workers and teleworkers that we're going to get to shortly. So let's move on then. Steve, thank you. This is the one I want to focus on because, some people say that our biggest value is reducing costs, but on the other hand, there's other folks that come back and say, no, 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 the biggest value is actually security. Less people attack this. If Steve gave some numbers, I'll give a couple more. The Verizon data breach investigative report for 2024, they go back and they look at all the breaches. And they came back and said 24% of the breaches, almost a quarter of the breaches, had to do with ransomware. And in healthcare, this is a huge thing right now. The numbers that Verizon gave were that, I was gonna say a couple months ago that 95% of ransomware was over $1 million. But the Change Healthcare, over the past couple months, 22 million recovery fee alone. This is a Linux-based operating system, so it's going to get attacked less right from the start than Windows. It's read-only, there's no local data. It's non-persistent. If I reboot this device, there's absolutely nothing that can stick. And so what this does is it really reduces the attack surface and makes it more of a zero trust compared to a Windows device. Let's call it Windows 10, which was the preferred BYO device. First thing that it does and asks, set up your administrative password. All the necessary ports are locked down. You have diskless options as well as encryption. Works with secure boot. What's really neat is being that these images are only 3 gig, we can do full image updates and we can do them globally. Just as important, I can roll back as well. Try doing that with Intune or with Configuration Manager, and you're going to be sending a lot of laptops back for to get re-imaged. We have a lot of third-party security components that we can add. I know Carahsoft is a big Palo Alto fan. You can add some of their components, an Island Browser, Zscaler, just some other ones, but you can take your, look at your favorite cloud or endpoint security components, and if you want, you can add that to the image. And what this does is it really simplifies compliance, HIPAA, PCI, even GDPR. And the reason is it simplifies it is A, there's no local data. So you don't have to worry about those compliance issues at the endpoints. We're now can focus in the cloud or in the data center and focus our auditing there. The other thing that is huge for us is our single image management. One of the things with Citrix over the years, provisioning server with single image management gave people a huge advantage in healthcare because it gave us the ability to easily certify images. And we have the same type of thing here. Secure access is built in as well. And if you kind of think about it, being that we have a read-only operating system and there's no local data, like even if ransomware came down to our device, what is it going to do? We all know how it works, but if there's no local data, no local devices, and what is there to encrypt? Just some thoughts. So let's go and take a look at the remote work and telehealth, Steve. This is interesting too. I mean, we did a lot of remote work and work from home before the pandemic. But one of the things, telehealth wasn't really a thing before the pandemic. But what happened is it became a big item during the pandemic, and it's not going back. We found that telehealth actually has it has some very unique value. It's very simple. Users don't have to get that in front of the physicians. They don't have to travel. Remote users may not have to travel long distances. And so in this model, really a couple of things for remote workers. I told you about the USB stick. I can use that, and then I'm not going to infect my Windows OS. Same with a dual boot. Any type of form factor that you want to use, it's plug and play. So I can set up these triage sites or these patient care centers in parking lots and strip them down when needed. If something goes wrong, it's real simple to plug and play a replacement. Everything's managed from the data center. We support all the healthcare peripherals. I got a list of that coming up. And then there's multiple device ownership scenarios, whether it's corporate owned or BYD. Um, it really doesn't matter. We have a solution for you. So let's go into some of the use cases then, Steve. And these are specific to healthcare, just kind of going over a little bit more detail. Then we're going to get to some demo. So the nursing stations, I kind of went over that. We need real fast switching between the users. It's typically a shared workstation. Um, we move over to the bedside. It's typically the same users using that nursing station, but it may be a cart. And those carts would use thin clients in the past because power consumption was a big thing on these carts. Nowadays, it may be a Surface tablet running no touch as well. But anything from a cart to a Surface tablet, again, we have our SSO capabilities and all of our integrations. A lot of times you'll see kiosks within medical centers that may go to a directory of how to get around the facility or patient rooms, um, and a lot of different use cases. We can manage that. We went over telehealth. That is, again, something that took off during the pandemic and is not going back. Triage, we saw that during the pandemic as well. Really easy to stand up and break down environments wherever they are, and really simple DR and HA. But this can also fit for back office users though too. Um, Whether it's Office or, again, they're going to be running some Epic as well. But your accounting department or such, again, I don't want them clicking on bad links either. So let's get them secured. It's great for radiology, multi-monitor support, high resolutions. And then the admissions is very similar to back office. The other thing we can do is manage IoT devices. And this is something I know that is very sensitive because there is some criticality. For example, you wouldn't want an MRI machine to be taken over by an attacker while you're in it. And again, we have a very cost-effective, but very, very secure solution. So let's go and take a look at our integration partners here. The endpoint's basically any endpoint. And if you look at healthcare, we talked about some of them, but the other ones that come up all the time are Nuance, Dragon, microphone dictation, a Philips microphone, and then our high-end graphics with the NVIDIA. You look at the security platforms, again, we can add third-party components. Carahsoft is a big Palo Alto fan, but you can see there's other components there as well. All the major VDI, DAS, and cloud PC platforms. And then the unified communication works great. It's much easier than trying to redirect it through a Citrix, a VMware, or such. So let's go on to a demo then. Let me share my screen. And you should be able to see my screen.
Yep, I see it.
So on my screen, I have a virtual no-touch OS endpoint. And this is out of the box. You can see there's no applications or anything defined right now. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to go and provide an out-of-box experience. But first, let's go to my no-touch center. This is our console. Again, it can be SaaS-based, it can be in the cloud, or it can be on-prem. And what I'm going to do here today is simulate a regional healthcare system. I'm in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And we are going to simulate, we're going to build up a King of Prussia office. And there's going to be converted devices as well as some new devices in King of Prussia. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through on creating some automation, really self-provisioning the applications and the security settings and such that we need. And so let's do this. I'm going to come back to this device. And like I said, I wanted to show what this looked like, out of box experience. And then, whoops, let me show you my configuration first, actually. I want to show you a couple things that we're going to do. The first thing that we're going to do is I can make a device find the proper no touch center. It doesn't matter where it's at. I can do it for a home user, and they do that by typing in their email address. But for my King of Prussia office, there's an easier way. All I need to do is make a DNS entry for the King of Prussia office, and I call it TCMGR. And I point that to my no touch center. And so I did that on my network. And so that's the first thing. We're going to automatically find our proper no touch center, and we're going to register. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and set up automatically. I'm going to automatically put that user into King of Prussia. And the way I can do that is you can see I have this automatic group assignment turned on. And it turns out that the King of Prussia network is our 10.0.2 network. And so what I can do is I can look at these devices, and that's just one of the ways that I'm doing it here. But if this device is in the 10 dot network, it's going to get into King of Prussia. And I think this is the other one that I set up. Yeah. You can see my Northeast Philadelphia facility is my 192 network, and it's got a bunch of devices on there already. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to configure this in the King of Prussia environment. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-configure my environment. If I come in here in the King of Prussia, I look at the group settings. And this is where my image is set up. So you can see here that I have these images, and I don't have a device yet. You'll see that I'll have a certain image that I'm going to send out there, and I can automatically update that image on different days. You know, the other things that we're going to do, I do have some folks using multi-monitors, and that's turned on. These devices, they're going to be printing to a brother printer that's in the office. So I have my print drivers. If I come in here to services real quick, you know, this is where I can enable and disable my USB devices through Citrix or VMware. But the other thing, I have my Imprivata settings in here. I don't have it. This is my home lab. The other thing we do is we have this really neat, you know, these are my policies. And in the Microsoft world, we have results of policies, which is fairly difficult. But here I can just go and click on my all button, and it shows me all the policies. Or maybe I just want to look at my changed policies, which I don't have any. And here are my non-default policies that are in the King of Prussia group as well. All right, so now that we have it configured, I want to go and take a look at some of the applications that, so in King of Prussia, right now they're a Citrix shop with Epic. So I'm going to deliver Citrix Workspace, but they're looking at Azure Virtual Desktop. They do use Office 365, so I'm going to deliver a Firefox browser, and they use Zoom as their unified communication. So let's go in and take a look. All I need to do is click new connection here. But again, I populated these already for you. So all I have to do here is come in and choose the connection type. And we have all types here, but I'm going to choose Citrix Workspace. Here's my URL. You don't want to do this in production, but I have my username batched in. Do you want it to auto boot this? And then there's a whole bunch of settings and such. How do I want this to react? Some extra security settings. And then same thing with Azure Virtual Desktop. Here, all I need to do is choose Azure Virtual Desktop. I don't need a URL. Here's my Firefox browser that's going to go to Office 365. And you can see I have a Firefox connection, and it's going to go right to the Office 365. And then Zoom. Zoom's not in the image, but it's one of our applications that we can add. And if you come here, I'm going to go into extension, which means extension to the operating system. You can see I have the Island browser available, and there's my Zoom plugin. So I downloaded the Zoom plugin. I uploaded it to No Touch Center, and it's available now. And once that's available, I can come in and create this connection. So we're all set. I already have my security settings set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my device that I want to show you the out-of-box experience. So as an administrator, I can log in locally to the configuration. And you can see there's a lot of stuff here that I can do, but what I'm going to do is come over here and choose factory default, and I'm going to say yes. And you're going to see this guy disappear. It's rebooting. I'm going to come down here. I had this guy. Let me get rid of him. So there's no residuals. And let's go back. All right, still booting. I'm going to bring both up here just to get a better view. So this out-of-box device, I just factory defaulted it. It's in King of Prussia. We have all the settings set up. So again, it's taught to go and find its proper no-touch center. And then based on the IP address, it's going to put it inside of the King of Prussia group. Once that is done, you will see that it will have all of my applications available for me. So here it's starting up for the first time. It found the No Touch Center and it registered, and the No Touch Center told it to reboot. So it's rebooting. Notice I have some notifications up here. So the first thing, I had this new device came on board. And then the second thing it tells me is it auto assigned to the King of Prussia based on the network mask. So what I can do is I have this little queue here. Whoops. Whoops, there we go. This is the guy. You can see that it was put inside of King of Prussia. We're going to go and continue watching this guy boot. So now it's rebooting. It's got its configuration and all the information from, from the No Touch Center, and boom, there's our 4 applications that we wanted to give it. And so now this user has our 4 workflows. They're secured, they're hardened, they're from the data center. And so this is ready to use now in King of Prussia. So I wanted to show you some other really neat stuff. Let's go and take a look at that help desk automation I was going to show you. I told you about, and I'm only going to go a couple more minutes here. So what I'm going to do is Control-Alt-I, and this is our identity key. And you can see it sent an identification request sent. And so this is for a user that needs help. I need help. I found out that there's a USB device that's not working. Oh, we got a notification. All right, this device sent an identity message. All right, so inside of identify, I have a queue. And let's think of this as a queue of end users that need assistance. So I know that this device, let me get rid of this. This is the device then that requested assistance. I'm not quite sure who it is or where it is, but let's go and reveal it in the tree. Oh, there it is. This is the device that I was looking for. And look, there it is in King of Prussia. And so, the first thing that you would probably want to do is say, all right, well, let's go and shadow it. But you know what? Actually, I don't want to do that though. Because what I want to do is I want to shadow my 15-year-old Dell laptop. Because this is actually this has both 2024 functionality, 2024 security, and it's a 15-year-old device that missed a whole bunch of desktop refreshes. You can see here I'm running an island browser. This is an enterprise level browser. These things just came out recently, weren't even around 15 years ago. And I got the latest and greatest type of security. Here I have all of my functional and latest and greatest applications via security. You can see the simple shadowing capability. And we'll go for questions here real quick. You can see one more thing I can do is as an administrator, I want to go and take a little bit deeper look into what's going on into this system because they claim they had USB issues. So I'm going to give the administrator password here. And even though I'm remote, I can go real deep into this device. So I'm going to come down here to debug information. One of the things I can do is I can look at all the screen resolutions just in case they're having issues there. Okay, this is 1280 by 800, so I can go all the way up to that. But we have a USB issue. So I want to come in here and take a look at the USB devices that are connected to this 15-year-old laptop. And if you come over here, I see it's got a micro D integrated webcam as one of the USB devices. Here's a Broadcom. It's probably the Ethernet, I guess, and Bluetooth and such. But you know what? I don't see the USB device that the user was complaining about. They were saying that their printer wasn't working properly and it was a USB device. It's just not there. That USB printer is not plugged in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have that user go and reset that USB device, and I think we're going to be pretty good. So a little bit of show and tell. I'll stop sharing now unless anyone had questions or such. So
Any questions in the queue, Nick?
Yeah, hey guys. So we do have a couple of questions. First one, I'm going to throw over to you, Steve. It's a question regarding licensing. So how is Stratodesk No Touch actually licensed, and how does all that work?
Got it. Great question. So we have a couple models. So we have a perpetual model where customers can buy the license and they own the asset. And then with that, you would buy a what we call a support and maintenance for that license itself. And the one thing I wanted to highlight about that is those licenses are transferable. So if you have that license on a device, that device dies or you want to change it out, that license can be moved. And the other model we have is a subscription model. So we're very, very flexible in that licensing models. But with the subscription model, you would get the license and then all the support included in that one subscription.
Perfect. Great. No, that should completely answer that question. And then, Bill, coming back to you for more technical clarification, what are some of the hardware requirements for No Touch OS?
yeah, good question. It's as simple as you need an x86 or ARM processor, which is the ARM is the Raspberry Pi based. Memory wise, it's going to depend on what you're doing locally. If it's just a VDI connection, the memory requirements are slim. I don't know if you're going to be anything past a 4 gig, but that would work fine in a VDI or DAS or cloud PC only environment. If I want to run unified communications or browser local, I'm going to want to possibly put a little bit more memory. It's all going to come down to the performance metric that you're trying to hit. You don't need a hard disk. You can actually go diskless. Although if you do use a hard disk, the image is typically about 3 gig. You can dual boot also. So if you have a Windows device and you want to make it so that it can run both Stratodesk and continue to run Windows, you're going to add, probably, about 5 gig to that. So the requirements aren't very large, Nick. And that's where I was saying, if you do purchase new systems, you can go and look for hardware profiles that are much smaller than what we typically would look for.
Awesome. And then another question that I'll throw over to both of you to tag team on here, kind of a two-part question. So can No Touch Center run natively in the cloud, and does it cost extra to host it there?
So yes, it can, Bill, or Nick, excuse me. So at no cost, so you can run that OVA in your customer's particular cloud, or actually we could even host that for them. Now, hosting it, there is an additional cost to do that in our cloud, but if you're going to host it in yours, you just take your license to any cloud you would like to.
Excellent. And then last question for you, Steve. Do we provide support during the proof of concept? So during the initial POC?
Yeah, actually, that's the slide I'm on right now. This is our free trial. So if you'd like to download a free trial, go to stratodesk.com/free trial. Once that's downloaded, it's very, very easy to get the OS on a legacy device or even a new device. And then if you have questions on how to configure that, the device itself or the No Touch Center, we are happy to support you through that. So just reach out to myself and we would be happy to walk you through that process. Plus the fact that when you do get the download, there are some helpful links there to get you started. And then there's also a link to our knowledge base as well. So we're going to help you throughout the whole process until you get this up and running.
Yeah, that's all the questions I can see, guys.
Okay, great. Well, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. It was a pleasure to be here. If you have any questions, please reach out to stratodesk@carahsoft.com or feel free to reach out to me as well. We're happy to help you. So thanks so much. Hope you all have a great day.
Yeah, and before we close out this webinar, I would just like to give a couple of thanks to our speakers. I would like to thank all of our participants for joining, as well as Bill and Steve for presenting and answering all the wonderful questions today. We hope today's presentation has been helpful for you and your organization. And again, this webinar was recorded and a copy of the presentation will be emailed to you in a couple of days. If you have any further questions or would like to request more information, feel free to contact the Stratodesk team at Carahsoft. our contact information is displayed, so please don't hesitate to call or email us. And thank you again, and have a great day.